a lot of energy on this week of the challenge, Champs versus Stars. Another good one. It's an interesting season, and I have a thought about the entire format of the show, but I'm going to say that for the very end of this week's episode of You Killed It, let's introduce ourselves. I'm John Chidley Hill.
And I am, once again, Sheldon Alexander.
Once again, and always, Sheldon Alexander, the podcaster general of Toronto. Just cranking them out the past week.
Something like that.
Fighting through illness, too.
I know, of all the times, like, I never really get sick. It doesn't really happen. And then, of course, I'm sick when I'm trying to do a new project and, couldn't shit the bed, even though the Toronto Raptors did. But
oh my God, did they ever? I was going to say, the hardest working man associated with the Raptors.
I mean, yeah. I'm still kind of heartbroken, I can't lie.
Me too. But let's talk about another, I guess it's kind of the off season of the challenge. I was going to say it's the postseason, but I don't think that's accurate.
You know what?
What did you think of this week?
You know what, though?
What did you think of this week of Champs?
The challenge, Champs versus Stars, still did its job to make me feel better about the terrible Toronto Raptors. It did its job in terms of entertaining me for an hour out of my week. I've been sick. I've been off work for a couple days. I've been sick, as I mentioned, and you know what? It was a good solid hour to make me feel a little bit better. The challenge did its job.
Yeah, I liked it. I think for me, early on, was the highlight of CT and Brooke Hogan talking to Hulk Hogan, which Hulk Hogan, mixed feelings about him as the man, but I liked seeing CT so, like, energized, and, like, you can tell CT grew up as a wrestling fan.
Yes, so this is weird, right? And we're going to skip ahead a little bit because it doesn't really give much away. But we know that at the end of the episode, or kind of towards the end, Brooke's kind of emotional and talking about, just how disappointed CT was in her, and it kind of reminded her of her dad and blah, blah, blah. And my whole thought was this whole thing a bit? That's my question to you, John.
Oh.
Was the whole thing a bit? And I was convinced that it was until Brooke was crying, because I was like, wait a second, she can't cry. Like, I don't think she's that great of an actress that she could just cry on the spot like that. But, I mean, maybe she is. I don't know. I don't know what Brooke Hogan's up to. Maybe she's trying to get into acting. I don't know. But my question to you is, was this whole thing just an angle? And I don't know this to be true, so I'm going to ask you, because I know you are a wrestling fan, but isn't Hulk Hogan trying to make a comeback? Like, he's getting, like, there's rumors he's going to be back into the WWE. So he's kind of like on this, like, happy-go-lucky redemption tour. Like, hey, I'm a nice guy. I'm Hulk Hogan. Remember me?
You are right. And it did occur to me. See, I didn't think that this was a bit in wrestling parlance. I didn't think that this was a work.
Yes.
But I did. It did occur to me that this would be a PR move by Hulk Hogan, because in all seriousness, that's the first time, to the best of my knowledge, that Hulk Hogan has appeared on television since it came out that, well, since his sex tape was released. Yeah. And during the sex tape, he used some really horrible racial language in regards to Brooke Hogan.
Yes.
Like, that's part of the dynamic there. For those of you who don't know,
which kind of
this is so weird.
Which kind of makes this all interesting too. Sorry, I'll let you explain what the thing.
No,
I don't think many people would know.
Yeah, so Hulk Hogan was friends, maybe still is friends, with the radio host in the Florida area, Bubba the Love Sponge. And I'm not clear if Hulk Hogan and his wife were swingers or if they were separated. I know they're now divorced. But Hulk Hogan had sex with Bubba the Love Sponge's wife. With Bubba's, like, okay, with his consent. And Bubba the Love Sponge apparently filmed them having sex covertly, like he was in the closet. And in the course of, like, pillow talk, I guess, Hulk Hogan's talking to Bubba the Love Sponge's wife about his how his life is all messed up because things were in a weird space with his wife. And Brooke Hogan, his daughter, her career was taking off in the wake of Hogan Knows Best, and she was trying to launch a musical career. And a lot of associated acts were or are rappers, and he was concerned that a lot of these rappers were sexually interested in his daughter.
Yes.
However, when explaining this to his sexual partner, he used racist language to describe these potential suitors to Brooke.
Yes.
And Gawker got its hands on the sex tape and publicized it. So not only is it not a great situation that he's having sex with his friend's wife, although apparently with his friend's consent, which, you know, to each their own.
Yeah.
But what he said during that pillow talk ruined his career. He was kicked out of the WWE Hall of Fame. The WWE has these things called Legends contracts, where basically if you're too old to wrestle, they'll pay you money in part to stay out of trouble, but in part to make occasional appearances at WrestleMania, or if they have some storyline that, like, you could kind of pop in for a guest appearance.
Yeah.
It's basically like keeping them on retainer.
For sure.
I don't think it's enough to live off of, but it's helpful money.
Yeah.
So that's why Hulk Hogan's in trouble, and it ties directly to Brooke Hogan and him being concerned, basically, that she's going to have an interracial relationship.
Which also makes this decision, like, super interesting, right? Because now you're bringing that, like, as he's making his redemption tour, you're making him like this fatherly figure again. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of the context that you're bringing him back into the public atmosphere. And the other thing too about it, John, was, to me anyways, and, you know, again, I like taking these opportunities to explain things because I feel like there are levels to certain things and levels to racism, for lack of a better term. And it was one thing, and I'll say this as a black dude, right? Like, there's one thing for, you know, Hulk Hogan to just be randomly throwing out N-bombs and describing black people. But on another level, the context of what he was talking about was he was saying that he didn't want his daughter to be dating any of these N-bombs unless it was one of those, like, 6'8" NBA or NFL athlete type N-bombs. That might be okay, maybe.
Yeah.
So, like,
I mean, it's all super problematic.
Yeah. So my point, though, in terms of what I'm saying, in terms of levels to this, right? Like, even if you remove the whole N-bomb aspect out of this, he's still a pretty, like, jackass comment to make, and very, like, racially, I don't know. There's a whole other angle that I don't even want to make the left turn on it, but just to emphasize, like, how shady and fucked up it is. Like, to me,
it is.
I'm one of those. I'm the like, I don't watch wrestling anymore, but obviously I'm of the age that when I was a little kid, wrestling, and especially Hulk Hogan, was a massive thing, right? Like, it was huge. Like, I loved Hulk Hogan when I was a kid. And so to me, it's kind of funny to sit and watch, but knowing how popular culture works nowadays, where basically, like, you do something, you fuck up, people tear you down, and then the comeback just inevitably happens, right? Regardless of what it is that you do. So it's kind of interesting to be in that space now where we're watching it happen live in real time. And I kind of just went, okay, this is interesting.
And Hulk Hogan is certainly a calculating enough person to think, like, if I make a, like, 2-minute FaceTime appearance on the challenge, and don't forget, the host of the challenge is a WWE superstar, like a current WWE superstar.
Exactly.
It'll be a step towards paving the way.
Yeah.
And one thing, again, I mean, we should probably do this out of order. Later on in the episode, CT gets mad at Brooke because he thinks because she quits on that week's competition.
Yeah.
And he tells her he's really disappointed, and she gets really upset and says, I'm like, I feel like he's my dad judging me, and she cries. And it's actually the clip they in the previews of this season where they showed Brooke crying over her dad.
Exactly.
She was really crying over CT.
Exactly.
But they edited it so finely that they made it sound like it was about her dad.
Wonderful producering, as I like to say all the time. Right?
Yeah.
A great job,
but
great work by the MTV producers.
How fucked up is it that Brooke Hogan feels like she embarrasses her dad?
Right?
When her dad's the one who got disgraced from professional wrestling, which is, as a culture, pretty loosey-goosey with what's embarrassing.
Exactly.
Like, in that whole story, Brooke Hogan did nothing wrong.
No.
Brooke Hogan was just living her life trying to launch her music career.
Exactly.
Like, there's nothing wrong with that, and she's spending time with people who happen to be African American. Nothing wrong with that. Like, she's just living her life.
I'm also interested just to know, like, what her reaction was to all of this, like, at the time. And I don't even know if that was a thing. Maybe I'll do a little internet deep dive on it later on. But I mean, I'm so interested. Like, it interests me in so many aspects, right? But I'm also the person who, you know, I'm tiptoeing with how I say this because I want to be very, like, conscious of how I'm saying this, but as a black person, I'm always interested in the why. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not the person that's necessarily just gonna brush off someone that says some ignorant ass shit. Like, so I'm don't get me wrong, my attitude is fuck you, but I'm still interested in the why and like the intricacies of how you got to that belief system, right? And so what interests me about this is I wonder what Brooke's whole take is on the entire situation. But
yeah, I'd be interested to know too. But she certainly has concerns that she's an embarrassment to her dad, which really says something about their relationship.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he's a bald white man with a handlebar mustache that always wears do-rags, got legal permission to wear a do-rag in the court case against Gawker, had a sex tape made.
Hold on, what? Why did he had to get legal permission? Why? Like, hold on.
Well,
he just didn't.
You're not allowed to wear a head covering in court unless it's religious, right?
Okay.
And his do-rag is not religious.
But why does he want to wear it? Like, he doesn't want to show his balding head?
Yeah, I guess so. But he like successfully argued that he should be allowed to wear his do-rag in court. Like, it was one of the first steps of his case against Gawker.
I did not know that. That's amazing.
Right?
The more you
Isn't
know,
that nuts?
That's an amazing. Wow. But yeah,
man, we could go into a deep dive about Hulk Hogan, the person, and also how African Americans are treated in professional wrestling.
Yeah.
Which is a very deep issue.
For sure.
But let's focus on Brooke and Hulk briefly and CT.
Yeah.
At one point, Hulk Hogan suggested that CT could be a professional wrestler. And good God, how into that would you be?
That would be hilarious, but I don't know. I feel like old school CT, new school CT, I don't think it would work. But like young gunner CT, definitely I could see as a thing. He'd be a crazy ass good villain. Young CT. CT that was like fighting with Adam. You know, Real World Paris CT, definitely. Was it Real World Paris?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
That's good memory.
I thought so, but I wasn't sure.
Here's the thing. I don't think he is that old.
No. I just mean in terms of, I don't mean in terms of age. I mean old school in terms of just like from when we first knew CT like a long time ago to the CT that we know now. I don't really mean the age. I think like he's matured into a very different person now, and he's a lot more calm and cool and collected, and yes, I'm aware that wrestling is not real, and so he could act and be the character. But I'm just saying, like, the character of CT, the old school CT, right, would be a lot better.
Yeah.
I could see that more as a wrestling shtick as opposed to Papa Bear CT now.
Yeah, but I think he could act it up. I think he could get there.
Maybe.
I also think he's shedding his dad bod.
Yeah.
There's something about his Instagram bio now says #RIP dad bod.
Oh. Dun, dun.
So he might be working things out. I also have to say, CT has one of the best Instagram and Twitter handles. Do you know what it is?
No.
Famous for nothing.
That's pretty good. Well played.
That's super good.
Very 2018.
Very 2018. But he's had that's been his handle for a while. He's just CT, setting the trends.
Yes, I like it. But yeah, as we said, I don't know. It's an interesting thing. I'd love to get people's take on the whole CT, Brooke, Hulk Hogan thing. So definitely hit us up in the comments. Shout out to all the people that commented on the whole Hennessy thing. I put that up in the challenge the challenge subreddit, and within 10 minutes, the comment section was just lit with people commenting about Hennessy and whether or not she was a good character, or whether or not they thought, did you find her entertaining, or are you happy she was gone? Like, there are just so many comments within so quickly. So yes, we do read them. Thanks for all the people getting involved in the conversation, and it's so appreciated. So yeah, let us know what you think about this Hulk Hogan, Brooke Hogan, CT thing. Do you think it was a bit? Was it a work? I don't know. I'm just thinking, just throwing it out there.
Use the lingo. Did we just get worked? Because Hulk Hogan is, he's in his way, he's a super sketchy guy. Like, you can never trust anything that Hulk Hogan says.
Yeah.
For our listeners, I invite you to Google Hulk Hogan lies, and you'll see what you get.
Dun, dun, dun. Well, we saw what we got from this episode, because as always, what happens in the beginning is always a tee up or a tease for what's coming up later. So clearly, it was either this episode was going to be about Brooke Hogan, or it was going to be about Drake liking steaks, right?
Yes.
And luckily it became more about Brooke Hogan, but the challenge, the actual competition at the center of this episode was called Face Off, and basically the two teams, one person, it was basically a hybrid between soccer, or I guess kickball, and football.
Mm-hmm.
And you would have one player who had to essentially make an onside kick, right? That's how I related to it. They'd have to make an onside kick, but kick the ball to themselves. It had to go 10 yards, then pick up the ball, reverse course, and then make it back to essentially score a touchdown, while trying to avoid the other team who has these huge emoji balls. I don't know how to explain that. These giant balls with emojis on them, and they're trying to knock you over. And if you get knocked over and knocked out of bounds, you're out. And obviously, if you make it back and get a touchdown, that would be a point. What do you think of this challenge?
I think they underestimated how difficult it was going to be. This is one of those times where they definitely thought people will score 4 or 5 points, and then they came down to only one person scored a point.
Well, here's the thing, right? And at the beginning, they kind of showed the discussion being had by the both teams. They were talking about a strategy, which I don't really think there was much of a strategy, right? Or at least it didn't seem that way. And you kind of got the level of, because for me, right, obviously I watch football, I love football. As I said, initially, right off the bat, I'm like, oh, it's like an onside kick or a kick return in football. And so my brain automatically went there. But I guess the counter to that was hearing how Shane was describing it, right? And Shane was saying that he knows absolutely nothing about football. I think his exact quote was, "He doesn't watch football. All he watches is gay porn." Which I don't even. Yeah, it seemed like a stretch, like a stretch in terms of the Johnny Bananas playbook of "I'm going to say this because I know it'll make the show" type thing.
Yeah.
But I think the point was made that he doesn't know football, and CT realizes that he can't really explain football to his team within 5 minutes. But here's what I'll say.
No.
Here's what I'll say, right? I think this should have been a lot easier if they used a strategy, which I don't think anyone did use a strategy. And to me, the strategy would be, okay, pick a side or like wherever you're going to kick it, but all of your blockers need to know where you're going to kick it. And then you just get the ball and you follow your blockers. And it didn't seem like anyone did that. It seemed like everyone just kicked the ball randomly, and then they were just randomly trying to run it back, which doesn't make any sense at all, right? So I think in theory it should have been easy.
The blockers did nothing as far as I could tell.
Yeah, it didn't look like it at all. Or at least, because I don't know how the numbers matched up, but was there enough blockers per defenders? Do you know what I mean? Like, could you have said, okay, well, Wes, your job is to block CT. Lil Mama, your job is to block Kayla. Brooke, your job is to block whoever. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if the numbers matched up like that, but it just seemed like there was no strategy had at all, and it was just kind of a free for all. And if you're gonna do that in a free for all, no one's really gonna score, and that's what happened.
Yeah. I think the numbers were even until Aneesa got hurt. Excuse me, until Aneesa got hurt.
No, but I just mean within, like, each specific challenge. You know what I mean? Like, each group that was going against each other, not overall. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I do have to point out, one man alone had a strategy. My man, Devin.
Yes, that is true. That is true.
So, for those of you who... I hope this is not the case, but for anyone who's listening to this podcast and did not bother to watch the challenge, I don't know why anyone would do that, but I don't know, stranger things have happened. What Devin did was they had sort of restraining lines, so the kicker was sort of in the middle of a semicircle, and they'd kick the ball, and once they connected with the ball, all the blockers and all the people chasing them could cross that restraining line. So Devin went and like faked a kick, and everyone jumped across the restraining line, and then he went offside. So everyone like turned around to go back, and then he kicked the ball while their backs were turned. So he got like a 10-second, not 10-second, but like a quick jump on everyone.
Yeah,
which would have been brilliant if he had told, to your point, if he had told his blockers he was going to do that so they had not jumped.
Exactly.
Because then he and his entire team would have had a jump and could have created like a Mighty Duck style flying V to protect him.
It's like you kick it to one side, so all your blockers are just running to a side, right? And then they essentially build a wall, and you're just running behind the wall.
Yep. I did love that they had Kayla explain what Devin did, and she's like, this is so typical Devin, because he thinks he's smarter than everyone. And he did it, and it was clever, but it didn't really work. Just pure Devin.
Yeah.
And it was like, it was one of those times that really, do you ever get caught up in a show, and you end up sort of shouting or like talking to yourself when it's on? I find it happens to me a lot when I watch Family Feud.
No, that never happens. I don't talk to myself while watching television. Who does that? That's weird.
No. But I'm sure you're a very rational, calm person. But as soon as she said that, I said out loud, whoa, Devin is smarter than everyone. Like pump your brakes, Kayla. It's a fact that, seriously, Devin is smarter than everyone except Wes? Maybe?
Yeah.
Like, of regular challenge competitors, who's smarter than Devin?
Yeah, I don't know. Especially in this instance, I mean, no one else really seemed to have much of a game plan, so...
No, I do think that Ashley M. is kind of smart. I don't think she's particularly articulate, and I think she plays dumb often, but, like, Ashley M. does consistently smart things. Like, her actions are smart.
Well, it was interesting here, right? Because you mentioned, I think it was her strategy was essentially to go up and say, if anyone, like she's screaming loudly, if anyone hits me from behind, I'm going to punch you right in the effing, I think she said effing
Oh,
dick.
yeah.
I think that's what she said because it was bleeped out.
Yeah, right in the fucking dick.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that's definitely a strategy. And then, you know, what they tried to, I guess, play up at the very end where she did that interview with The Miz, where they talked about the fact that I guess during one of the plays she got hit and like smashed her face off the ground and then kind of laid there for a bit, and The Miz was insinuating that did she do that to sort of play it up for all the other girls or for the other competitors to kind of be like, oh no, like she's really hurt, and like scare off other people. I mean, that would be a smart strategy. I don't know if she did that or if they were just kind of playing that up as another angle, but you know, that would lead to your point.
I wouldn't put it past her.
Yeah.
And like when the Miz asked her, she sort of just like said nothing and had like a sly smile on her face.
Yeah.
Which certainly made it seem like, I mean, she's the one that came up with politicking. Like she's a canny person, and I mean, they showed her earlier in the episode kind of bouncing around talking to everyone in the hotel.
Yep.
Like, just having a conversation with Casper, and I really like her. Like, I think she's a nice person, and I think she's funny. I think that she's a little unstable, but she seems like, I know your standard is, would I want to have a beer with this person? I think I'd want to hang out with Ashley. Not her first the season that she was on The Real World, she was insufferable and ended up quitting.
Yeah.
But I quite like her now on the challenge. Like, she's really grown on me.
Yeah. No, for sure. I feel like she has it's funny, right? Because after all these years, we kind of lose track of it. But sometimes when you take a step back and think about it, we've watched some of these people grow up, right?
Yeah.
And like mature in different ways. And you're right. Like from her first season when she was on The Real World to now, and I mean, obviously we still got a moment of Smashley going a little crazy at the end of this episode here, but overall I do get your point of what you're saying here. I mean, it was cool to see her too in this challenge because she was all over the place. Like she was taking hits, she was trying to make tackles. There's that funny like slow-mo shot of, I think she was trying to tackle Casper, and like Casper just kind of like deeks and then like not stiff arms her, but I don't even want to say toss her aside because it makes it sound worse than it was. But yeah, like she was mucking it up. Like she was involved in this.
She was trying her best.
She was, which was more than we can say for someone else on their team. But I do want to ask this question first before we get into Brooke, because we already mentioned Brooke ends up quitting, right? And she doesn't want to participate in this challenge, right? But I want to ask you a question, John. Do you think it was weird that they didn't split this into guys versus girls for this challenge?
Yeah.
Like, did they underestimate how physical it would be? Because there are some shots like CT. I mean, CT was taking people out, and I say people because there were guys and girls, right? And like, I'm not saying that he went hard in terms of taking girls out, you know, like I'm sure there was some let up, you know, on a lot of people's parts, but at the same time, like, CT's a big dude. Booby's a professional basketball player, you know, Tony's a big guy. Like, do you think it was fair that they didn't split this up?
I don't think it was fair, and I do think that, like, the difference is Booby, or sorry, is CT, because he's so big. Like, I'm looking at Booby Gibson's stats right now. He's 6'2" and 190 pounds.
Oh, okay.
CT is an inch taller than him, but possibly has 90 pounds on him.
Yeah.
Right? That's 90 pounds is not like a difference you can overcome when someone's running at you, right? Like, there's no getting low to solve that. And I don't know how heavy Tony is. I think Tony's about the same height, But again, I'd be at most I'd say Tony's 220 pounds. Like
No, for sure.
he's still giving up like 60 to 70 pounds to CT. So, you know.
Yeah.
And those are the next two biggest guys before you get to like Drake or Shane or or Wes. Like,
Well,
I
just
agree.
the way that you're bouncing off people, right? And obviously, the flip side to what Brooke was saying was obviously Aneesa, who bounced off CT and ends up breaking her ankle. Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Her femur,
her
yeah.
femur. Yeah, sorry, I was trying to remember which specific part it was, but yeah, I mean, it was a super interesting challenge, and I guess it leads to the obvious question because there wasn't really that much else really going on. I think we covered most of the big things that actually happened in that challenge, but just in terms of the whole Brooke angle of it, because I think that that's the main focus or the main storyline here. Do you think she made the right decision? Like, what do you make of just her decision to quit and not even take part in going?
I think it was foolish. I think that a way that you could there's a way that you could take a dive if you're really that concerned about getting hurt without without people knowing. Like, of any challenge competition, it would be the easiest just to like take the hit, or like if you drop your ball, you're out, right?
Yeah.
Or if you get pushed out of bounds.
If you got pushed out of bounds, for sure, or if you got tackled, you were out. Yeah.
So you could just work your way to the sides and like go out that way. Like, you only really got in trouble. Just like stay away from CT, and you'd probably be fine.
Yeah, I mean, there definitely would be a way to do it. And did she ever wrestle at all? Like, try to wrestle, or no? She didn't?
No.
Okay, because I was
to the
gonna,
best of my knowledge.
because I was gonna ask, like, because I thought she might have just for some wrestling storyline or something over the years, and I was gonna say, don't they learn how to take falls, right? And like, that would be a thing, but obviously, as you said, she didn't wrestle, so that would be a dumb point by me. But
Well, but that said, like, second or third generation professional wrestlers, like the children of professional wrestlers, have such an innate understanding of wrestling just because they've been around it. Like, just because she hasn't wrestled doesn't mean she doesn't know how to take a back bump.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. That's
right?
fair.
Like my dad was a lawyer. I would never practice law, but I do have some of the concepts of the law profession down, just because, like, we talk about it over the dinner table. It happens.
No, for sure. I mean, I think overall, though, to me, the weirdest part of this whole thing was just the way that it went down. Like, it was kind of weird, just a conversation where CT's trying to, like, give her a pep talk to amp her up, and the rest of her teammates are kind of looking around like, really? Is she going to quit? Like, I think you're right. Like, there was a way that you could have, like, if you think of Salida, I have no idea what she did in this entire challenge, right? But she took part. She might not have been trying to hit anybody the entire time, right? But she took part and she tried. So further to your point, I think there was a way that she could have gone about this that didn't involve quitting. But I guess the guy who didn't quit was your boy Casper, who was the only person to score, and he outran everybody. He ends up scoring, but nobody seemed to be happy for him, not even his own teammates, right? Wes in his confessionals calls him a bitch and says that he is a slower, weaker, dumber version of Bananas, which I thought was funny. But in the instance, to bring up an instance that you were referencing before in terms of talking back to the TV, after Wes did say that, I did say to the television, yeah, but he did smash J-Lo. Which Bananas did not.
Still has that going for him.
Yeah.
It was also interesting to me, like, there's a scene after the competition where Wes challenges Louise Hazel to a quick hurdle race, Olympic hurdler Louise Hazel, and like kind of kind of tricks her into thinking like, oh, this will be a cakewalk, and then Wes actually does well at the hurdles.
Yeah.
Hurdling is something that like really impresses me because it's about sort of timing your jumps and your strides. Like it's a real skill. And then he basically makes his pitch to be like, listen, you and I should be going to the final together. Let's work together. Let's fuck over Casper. And she's like, yeah, okay. And the thing is, I think she ultimately does not agree to work with Wes.
No.
But, and we'll get to that scene, but it's obvious that the door is open. Like, Casper is her closest ally, and she doesn't like Casper. And, like, there's a scene later where I think it was Tori or Kayla in confessional was like, man, Casper fucking sucks. Like, no one likes that guy.
Yeah, it's true. It's so true. Nobody likes Casper, but again, and this might actually be, I know I'm joking a lot of the times. I'm joking around where I'm saying like, yeah, but he did smash J-Lo. If you think about this though, right? Just in terms of reading people and people's personalities that we don't really know, but Casper seems super confident and super cocky, right? Imagine how confident you would have to be to smash J-Lo. Like, in all seriousness, right? Like, do you know what I mean? So when you put that into context, I think it kind of makes sense, no? Like, imagine the confidence you would need to, you know, talk to J-Lo and, like, end up in a relationship with Jennifer Lopez, arguably one of the most beautiful women on the planet, right? So,
and successful, and,
for sure.
Like, let's be real, a lot of men are intimidated by successful women.
Facts. Super facts.
And she is super successful. And no offense to Casper, but he is not as successful as her, nor will he ever be.
Facts.
Like, he is never going to be a platinum-selling recording artist.
Hold on. So you're saying J-Lo won't be on the next season of Champs vs. Stars? No?
I mean, maybe. That would be incredible.
I mean,
that'd be like if an angel came down from heaven.
That would be
to like go toe to toe with Smashley. Like, that'd be. I can't even imagine what it'd be like to. Like, we always complain, and fans on the Facebook group and on Reddit complain about how they don't get real stars on this show.
Yeah.
But can you imagine if they did? Like, can you imagine if Beyonce was on this show? Or if like Tom Hanks was on the show, like, no one would be able to function in their proximity, right? Like, there's a certain level. I saw one person suggest, I think it must have been on the Facebook group, someone suggested that Kevin Hart would be great, and he would, but like, also, the entire show would revolve around Kevin Hart. Like, there's a certain level of stardom that would tip this entire balance, and just like, I think CM Punk is probably the highest level of star that they can get without things being completely weird.
Yeah, because we always exclude T.O. because we know that he was just desperate for money, right? Like, actually desperate for money. So, yeah, no, for sure. I totally agree with you.
And he didn't interact with people either.
No, like, he was just
kept
there
to himself.
for the check. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, so I guess following up that, Casper wins it for the blue team. Then we get, like, the meetings between the two teams, right? And
yes,
you know, I guess, should we talk about you mentioned the Wes, and sorry, I'm going through my notes here as we're talking, and I did actually type out notes, which is weird, but I guess you mentioned the Wes and Louise thing, and it was funny because I wrote down the analogy that I think Wes was trying to play the Uncle Phil pool shark episode of Fresh Prince. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And he comes in with Lucille after. Was that the name of his pool team? Lucille?
Jeffrey, get me Lucille.
Yes.
And Jeffrey's got it in his pants.
Yes. And, like, I feel like that was Wes's plan, but I feel like he actually got hustled by Louise, right? If we play out how this whole thing went down. And the blue team had, like, a weird thing going down, right? Because they're trying to figure out who was going to be the MVP. Wes wanted himself to be the MVP. Casper obviously Oh, maybe I said Louise probably played the Uncle Phil role. Maybe it was Casper, because Casper did a really good job of saying that he wanted to be MVP, but really we found out their whole plan all along was to make Louise the MVP, right? But Casper
Yeah.
played it up enough to get the stars to think that they just needed enough votes because Casper was going to vote for himself and Louise was going to vote for herself. So as long as they had the votes, it wasn't going to be them. Kudos to Casper here.
Yeah.
Are we bigging up Casper? Good job here.
I mean, that's assuming that it was no bigging up Casper. Not on our show. Here's the thing. First of all, I think that was Louise's plan, and I expect that she had Casper in on it.
For sure.
So
no, Casper was definitely
Louise gets the credit.
Yeah. Casper was definitely in on it.
Second of all, I'm sorry, Wes. I know there's a good chance that you're listening, but it was dumb to vote for Casper.
Yeah, I didn't understand what he was doing. Even because he thought that Casper was going to vote for himself. Was that it?
Yeah, but like it was so easy. Like at the end of the day, Casper knows that what he needs is a star to be the MVP.
Yeah.
That's all that matters. It doesn't have to be him. It just has to be a star. So once Tori has 2 votes, as Wes, you gotta vote for Tori.
Yeah.
And at least force a tie.
Yeah, I was confused. I was very confused. Maybe he was trying to play both sides, like, trying
the other thing, the last time they had a tie, Miz threw it to whoever was your last MVP, which would have been, it would have been Shane, I guess, was the last MVP. I know he's on Team Red, but he's still a champ, and he would have voted for Tori, right? Like, so
it was a puzzling.
Wes
move
blew
by
it.
Wes.
Sorry, Wes, but you blew it.
Definitely was a puzzling move by Wes. That's what I mean. Maybe it was like he tried to play Uncle Phil, but Louise one-upped him, right? Like it was a great move, and it just turned out to be even weirder. Just I guess we'll discuss what happened with the red team first, but we kind of touched on it already. They kind of had their little deliberation, and CT brings up that he was upset with Brooke that she quit, and Brooke is rather upset, and she ends up crying, and it was super weird. But we end up back in the nomination ceremony, I guess we've decided to call it, right? And Aneesa, who got hurt, is automatically out. So there's no actual elimination. There's no finding out who the LVP was going to be, etc. But they do need to pick an MVP. And as you mentioned, it ends up being Louise, right? But then Louise now, in her being the MVP, you get the power play, and you get to make a trade. And I was super confused here. So I've already mentioned I was confused by Brooke quitting. I was confused by Wes's decision to vote for Casper. I was confused by Louise's decision here with the trade. Because to me, don't you trade for CT to be on your team?
See,
because they said
I was thinking that
you could trade anyone, right?
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
But I don't understand her
thing...
thought process here. I don't understand what she was trying to do. Like she said, she was just trying to like mess things up, but I don't get it. Like, what benefit is it to like you're just throwing off the Stars team by just messing with Ashley? Like, was that the play? Like, I was confused by it. I don't know if I'm missing something.
I think she underestimated the what Ashley's respect, like what her reaction would be. But the other thing about this was, I don't think like you, my first thought was like, oh, get CT. But then my second thought was, no, wait a second. It's more important than anything that you want a team of all stars, right?
Yeah.
To help you swing the vote, and so that there's not this back and forth with Wes. You just want to like stomp out the champs on the blue team, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't know who the best star on the red team would be, but to me, you trade a champ, Tori, for one of the stars, whoever the best one might be. Maybe Drake? I don't
I don't
know.
know because who are the stars on the red team? It's like Drake, Brooke, Salida,
Yeah, you know what?
Lil Mama.
I would have traded for probably Brooke.
Lil Mama, who had a great challenge. I mean, they did big up Lil Mama, right? How she didn't give up. She went
She was
hard. She was
she
trying.
was tough.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, she's battling out there, right? And I guess that was one of the points CT made in regards to Brooke, right? He's like, I'd definitely rather run a final with Lil Mama because I know she's not going to give up. She's not going to quit, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, maybe that was a move. You're right. That the move would have been to trade and get another uh, star on your team, right? But then you'd also be giving the other side another champ. But that doesn't
Yeah,
matter
but
because
that's not your
It's not
concern.
your concern. Yeah, so I think you're right, John. Like that would make the most sense.
Yeah, those to me those are the two best options. You get CT, or I think the better move is to get probably Brooke,
Yeah,
so that you always have the numbers.
yeah. So she doesn't do that. She gets Ashley, and Ashley is not pleased, to say the least. Ashley goes on like a screaming rampage. She like leaves. She ends up in the hallway screaming. One of the producers trying to talk to her outside. She's still screaming. Then she makes her way back into the room finally, and then she's still screaming. She's calling all of the other champs on the blue team bitches. And I was kind of surprised that Tony and Wes were just kind of quiet, and maybe it was edited out, so we don't know what actually happened, but it was just a weird scene altogether because they were just like super quiet, super just like letting Ashley go, and Ashley was just screaming her mind off. But sticking with my I'm confused reaction to this episode, I don't get why Ashley was so mad. Like I guess her assumption was they were bringing her on the team to just keep throwing her in every week, but that doesn't really make much sense because I mean they could have just kept Tori and kept throwing Tori in. So I don't like it was just really weird. Like I don't understand why she was so mad. Like it was a weird.
I don't
thing.
know either. I think that it rubbed her the wrong way for ways that she doesn't even understand. Like I don't think like she was instantly angry, right? Like Tori went to hug her as they
Yeah,
switched spots, and like she kind of patted Tori on the shoulder, but like was not feeling it.
yeah. Oh no, she was
But
like,
then,
"Don't
like,
effing touch me," and like walked out.
yeah, no, but that was later, earlier on when they were switching spots behind the couches.
Oh, okay.
Tori was like, "Oh, this sucks," and like went to hug her, and she like kind of patted her on the shoulder and kept going. I think that Ashley just doesn't like the idea of being traded. Period. Like I think it's like
Ah,
it makes her feel like she's the last kid in gym class, sort of thing.
interesting. But even if that's the case, like, doesn't that tell you that she wants you on their team? Like, I don't know. The whole thing just seems weird. And again, I was super confused. Now I was entertained, but I was super confused. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know,
My
but
other
from the preview, it looks like bringing Ashley onto the team was a big mistake, and that she's going to throw all the competitions for the blue team.
Yes. So, I mean, again, that adds another level of interest seeing what's going to happen next week. And I don't know what's going to happen next week. But one of the things I'm finding, I have a really interesting question for, and I want to know if any of our other listeners have picked up on this. Am I the only, I can't be the only one that notices this, but is there a rule or something? Like, do people, are like the girls on purpose showing up to these the deliberations with no bras on purpose? Like, has this become like a weekly trend or a weekly thing? Like Ashley, what's her name? Ashley, Louise, Hennessy last week. Like, I was just like, what's going on? Like, are they at like a super heated location that like it's just so hot, so you have to wear like the least amount of clothes possible? Like, I don't know. I didn't understand what's going on, but each and every week I feel like I'm just like there's just a moment where I'm like, oh, okay, I wasn't expecting that. And again, as a straight male, that I'm not complaining, but I'm more so wondering, like, is anyone else noticing this? Is this like a thing? Like, is there
Well,
a
it's
new
the style
trend?
right now.
That's a style right now. That's a thing.
It's a style right now.
Is that what the cool kids are doing now? Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. I like this
Yeah.
new style. Where was this style when I was in high school?
Oh man, Sheldon, we would have been in so much trouble if that was the style in high school.
I'm saying when I was in college, when I was, you know what I mean? Like, what's going on here? Like, that's okay, cool. There's no segue off that. I'm sorry.
No, there's no. I'm gonna take a breath, and then I'm gonna float something to you before we get into our MVPs of the week.
Okay.
I was thinking last night as I watched the show, how great would it be if the next season was champs versus fans?
No.
No, you're not into it? You don't think it'd be cool to have like
Nope, completely out.
Sort of make it a fresh meat situation?
No. Completely out.
No?
No. The reason I'm out on that is because at the end of the day, right? The reason why the challenge works, for me anyways, the reason why reality shows or any TV show, right? Any television show with characters on it, right? The reason why we watch is because we have some vested interest in the characters. Some fan, like, just because you like the challenge, like, I don't care about you now being on the show. Do you know what I mean? Like, I would have no, like, oh, here's a super fan, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, I don't care. Maybe if you have like one super fan that ends up being in the, you know what I mean? Like being on the team or something. I don't know. But a full season of fans, no, out.
That's true. I just think it'd be interesting. I mean, they'd have to really pick carefully because you'd need athletic fans.
Okay.
But I just think it would create a really interesting dynamic where fans get to see how hard it is to compete against challenge champions, like to see what level it is.
Interesting.
And we're getting to a point with the stars, as we said, the quality of the stars not super high.
I don't know though. I thought this season was better than last season.
Yeah, last season was bad.
Yeah,
like Drake Bell is a legit name. Brooke Hogan's a legit name. Like, Arian Foster, who I keep forgetting was on this season, is a legit name. Yeah. But I mean, at least I don't know. I think it'd be an interesting dynamic.
There's people that we know, right? And I think that, like, you know, I know who Boobie Gibson is. Most people won't, but I know who Lil Mama is, right? Like, they're people that we know. So I'm not too mad at that, but I know your point. I see what you're saying. At a certain point, it's like, does it run its course?
Yeah.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, and like I am sure. Obviously, we've got the final reckoning. The next season of the challenge is on the horizon, but I'm sure that the good people at Bun and Murray are working on the next Champs versus Stars, and I'm curious as to who they're going to get lined up. Right? Like, they probably haven't started filming yet, but it's coming, right? So I wonder how sustainable this current model is.
No, for sure. Solid point.
I mean, at this point, they already had to bring back Louise Hazel.
Yeah. No, that's true. It's very true. Very true, my dude.
So, I gotta ask you, Sheldon, who killed it for you this week?
I kind of alluded to this earlier, and this might be a shock, but I'm going to pick Casper. I'm going to pick Casper because he actually was the only person to complete the challenge and like earn his team a point. He was the real MVP. He won the challenge for his team. And also I think he did a good job with the sell. And even if it was Louise's idea, he had to sell the fact that he was going to pick himself as the MVP, and maybe that wasn't that difficult because it was easy for him to be cocky and want to be the MVP, but he still had to pull it off. He still had to do it. And yeah, I think just overall, because of the way that he performed in the actual competition, easy pick for me. Blue team won. Casper. Yeah. Casper's my pick for MVP.
Yeah, I'm with you. He's also my pick for MVP for all the reasons that you said. He was the only one that could win that competition, which was at a deadlock and people were getting tired. And he also got it done in the nomination ceremony,
Yeah.
getting his ally the MVP, and she's gonna protect him. So, yeah, it was a smart play through and through. As much as I dislike him, and as much as seemingly everyone dislikes him, he did a good job this week. God help us.
Agreed.
If you want to get us on Twitter, I'm at jchidleyhill.
And you can find me on Twitter at Shell Alexander and on Instagram at Sheldon Alexander.
And until next week, this was You Killed It.
You too.